I know most people don't really have a clue about old vehicles. And some people classify old vehicles like they do old people. And, well, I'm an old person, I guess, because that's an old vehicle. This is a 1978 Chevrolet truck. And I took the carburetor off because I'm having fuel delivery problems. It's running poorly, but it still runs. Honestly, pretty decent for something with an antique fuel system that's never been touched. So right now, what we're getting ready to do is I'm going to replace the fuel pump and rebuild the carburetor. Now, if you don't know what a carburetor is, it's essentially a toilet for gasoline. So you flush it by stepping on the gas pedal, and it makes the car go faster, or truck. This is a small one. This is a little Rochester 2-barrel. They're pretty freaking dependable, awesome little carburetors that drive great and make good low-end torque and not a lot of top end. But we got this here Walker kit. If you're working on a 78, there's the part number. And we're going to tear this thing apart. I'll show you bits and pieces of it all disassembled. We even got a brand new fuel pump for it. That's a Precision brand from O'Reilly's. It's a lifetime warranty. That's the part number on that. And I got just a couple of tools because it really honestly doesn't take much. I do have to go get a flat screwdriver. I'll show you some more pieces in a minute. All right, we're back. I got this here top plate off. Y'all be careful of all the little pieces of linkage. I don't know if you can even see that. Let me get some shade over here. All right. We got a lot of pieces of linkage here, several. You got to take that choke side apart and get that all disassembled, and then you get your choke release diaphragm and all that stuff laying over there off to the side. I didn't disconnect all the linkage from that because there's not really a necessity of it. I'm going to take this float out of here and pull the needle and seat, and that's the accelerator pump plunger right there. And it looks a little bit collapsed, but way better than I expected it to, considering it's as old as I am. This truck was produced about the same time God was making me. Does have some blowout on a gasket and a little bit of rip, probably from pulling it apart. But the trash in the bottom of the carburetor is less bad than I expected it to be. We're going to take it the rest of the way apart, clean it up some more, and replace everything, and clean out the jets and wash out all the ports and make sure everything's intact. And we'll show you some more pieces as we go. All right, let me turn this thing around. It won't turn around. Turn around. We got it. Okay. Now, here's the inside of the carburetor. See it rotate it so you can get a little light in there. That's the guts. I took all the jets and everything out, and I took the Venturis. I took all this out. And we're going to clean all this stuff up, make sure everything's clean and clear. Pull the gasket. I still got to get that gasket off there. And I don't know what all these pieces are called, but these little baffles that go down in there. And then I got the power valve, which I don't think it came with a new one, but I'll double check the kit in a minute. And those are the main jets. We're going to clean all that stuff up. I got the accelerator pump spring right there. I got to flip this over now and tear apart the base plate. And we'll go from there. All right, I got the base plate off, and I'm going to pull the idle jets. What I'm going to do before I take these out is I'm going to screw them in, and I'm going to count the turns to stop, and then I'll take them out. But I need to know how many turns in to stop that started with, because it ran pretty decent with an ancient carburetor, and I don't think I really need to do any major readjustments. So I'm planning on putting these right back where they were to begin with as we start putting it back together, and then if I need to retune it as we go, we will. Also, the linkages popped apart a little bit. They just fall apart anyway, but when I was flipping it around, so just make sure you know where these linkages go and you can get them back in the right place. It's always good to check that stuff and to make sure that you've got it right, but that base gasket was pretty freaking rotten and shrunk, and the screws weren't really as tight as they should have been, primarily because the gasket has shrunk over the years. That's the upper gasket, which it was in pretty poor condition. So it's definitely beyond in need of a rebuild. So I'll show you some more pieces as we go. I'm going to take this stuff out and clean it up with some brake clean, and some of the parts that won't come clean, I'm gonna vat in some pure acetone because it'll take everything off of it. I still got to pull the choke cap right here and pull the choke mechanism off so that we can just clean everything thoroughly. I got to go dig up my wire brushes, and we'll talk to you in a few. All right, I got the idle screws out. They were both in about 2 turns, 2 1/8. So I got that tore down, and the butterfly plate and the butterfly rod are in excellent condition. So I'm not going to take that apart because they can be real bare sometimes, tearing apart and putting back together. And those screws are just not made to come out. They're crimped. So instead of destroying the factory crimps that are in excellent condition, I'm going to leave them alone. This carburetor is not being rebuilt because of wear and tear and mileage. It's being rebuilt because of age. This truck is actually super low miles. It actually has right at 50,000 original miles, actually just a little bit less. It has very little wear and tear on it. It's just old. So we're going to clean all this stuff up, and we'll get you some pictures as soon as we get it washed. Okay, I got this all cleaned up. It almost looks new. There's a few spots it's dripping fluid on me still. It's all cleaned up as best as I can. Got all the debris out of it. Got all the grease off of it. I'm still gonna have to lubricate it before I put it all back together, but we'll get all to that in a little bit. So first we're gonna start reassembling, and then I'll lubricate all the linkages and stuff before we put it back on. I still gotta clean the choke. That's the only piece I don't have cleaned up other than the choke release. I guess I'll clean that up a little bit too, just so it looks new. I did have to go pick up some new wire brushes, and it's been a minute, but I'm gonna get this stuff all ready to go back together, and then I'll show it to you again in a little bit. All right, I got the base plate back on there. Got a few things assembled. Got the top half getting ready to go back together. I reassembled the accelerator pump with the new plunger. I got the needle and seat and float back in there, and the level looks good on it. The new needle is the rubber tip, which holds back a little more pressure. It's a little bit better than the old metal ones. I don't like them as much most of the time because they don't last as long, but I'm not going to take any chances going to put the new one in there. I got the choke cup cleaned up. Still got to clean up the spring and backing plate, and then reassemble the choke, put all this stuff back together with the linkage, put the top cap back on. That's where we're at. We'll be back. All right, we're back under the hood of it, and I got the carburetor sitting there. I just dropped it. I didn't really do anything else to it yet, but we're going to hook up the linkages. It's all pretty and clean, and everything should operate just fine. So I'm going to throw some hoses at it and hook up linkages and bolt this thing down and get everything ready to go. And then I got to change the fuel pump. So that's where we're at now, and then we'll do a walk around and hopefully a startup. All right, I forgot about something. So we're back at the back of the truck, and I realized that when I set that base plate on this carburetor, I realized it before I got too far, but I did not torque those bolts down because I wanted to make sure I got them plenty tight. It's not one that you can retorque after the carburetor's on. So I'm going to use my cordless impact and run these 3 base plate bolts back down into this thing tight. And we're going to zip back and forth a couple of times to make sure that they're even. And we'll go from there. All right, I got the carburetor back on there. I got the low speed jets. They were at about 2 1/8 before I went ahead and brought them out to 2 1/2. I wanted to run just a touch rich. I'd rather be a touch rich than a touch lean, especially at idle, something that might sit running for a few minutes at a time. Running a little bit rich will keep it running a little bit cool. It's not going to hurt anything to run a little bit rich. And with this E85 ethanol fuel, this E10 ethanol fuel that we've got now, if we're not buying the ethanol free, it needs to run just a touch rich because the energy content in the fuel is different. So the next project, I'm going to climb down here, if you can see or not, right there at the fuel filter. I already unbolted the main line. I'm going to disconnect the line from the tank up and reroute that line a little bit so that filter's not where it's at. Then I'm going to change that fuel pump. I got a brand new one sitting right here in the box. And we're gonna throw that on there and put it back together, and then we're gonna try to start it. All right, I had a little bit of fail there. The line right here did not want to come loose from the pump because it was just a really tight fit. So I'll have to replace that piece of hose. But I was just double checking right here. I want to make sure everything's good. Always look at these because make sure that they line up. I got the gasket hanging out there, but lay them down at even angles and look to make sure that those pipe outlets are indexed properly. That means twisted at the right angle. Because if they're not indexed properly, when you go to put that steel line back on there, and this does still have the intact original steel line running up to the carburetor, and it is a real pain to get that back in place if you don't index it properly. And then, I'm good with my fingers, so I don't have to worry about it, but if y'all are changing one of these, you'll notice that that fuel pump push rod dropped when I took the old pump out. And if you want that not to happen before you remove the pump, there's a bolt in the front of the block right up there behind the fuel pump. It's behind the radiator hose on fuel pump. You got to have a wrench to get at it, and this one's covered in grease. But right there's a bolt, and it's only about a ½ inch long. If you remove that and run one that's about 1.25 inches long in there until it stops, don't over tighten it, just a little bit snug when it stops. That'll hold that fuel pump push rod up in place so that you don't have to fight it going back in. And then you can just drop the pump in there and bolt it up. I'm going to push that push rod up there and drop the pump in there under it. Most people just don't have the dexterity and the fingers that it requires to do that. So I recommend putting a longer bolt in there. And then after you're done, remove that bolt. Do not leave the long bolt in there. Remove that bolt and put that short bolt back in to plug the oil hole. And then you'll be good to go. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up and scraped down and new gasket and everything in place and throw this pump on there. All right, I'm back. That was easy. I got it down in there. My fingers are all kind of dirty. Smell like gasoline. I got to put a zip tie on this to keep that fuel filter pulled back away from the radiator hose because I don't want it to heat up and vapor lock. So to start with, for now, I'm going to just tie it back out of the way. Eventually, I'll bypass that and put a pump filter back in this, but I want to run a really good filter on this. I mean, a carburetor inline filter. I want to run a really good filter on there for now that I can see into to see how much trash I'm pulling out of that old gas tank. Anyhow, it took me about 15 minutes to throw that in there, get everything hooked back up. It was indexed perfect, dropped right in there, no problems. So I'm going to go get a zip tie and then put the air filter and stuff back on here and get back to it. All right, I did have to spray it because I didn't have any fuel up here and I was going to run my battery dead. But not exactly a cold start, but pretty close to it. Runs beautiful, fired right up with spray. It's kind of cheating. We'll have to wait till it sits and cools down again to see how well it starts later. But it's definitely a little smoother than it was before I rebuilt it. I think there's a lot less air leaks in that carburetor. Throw that cover back on there. And I believe, got the wing nut. Should have wire brushed that stud while I had it out. Spin it on easier. But all good. Look at this. Keep your truck all GM. That's a factory air cleaner sticker. Isn't that beautiful? I had to glue that back on so I wouldn't lose it. Alright. That's what we got so far. Carburetor's back in it. She's running beautiful. Has not been washed, but this is what the truck looks like. Those are the wrong rims. I got to put the other rims back on it. Those are the rims that I have for it. I just had to get a couple tires mounted. I haven't done anything else with it. There's the toolbox / tailgate. It's got a nice dent in it right there. Nothing severe on this truck. It's pretty decently clean. It's got a couple of rusty spots, but nothing really severe. I've got to fix this. That's one of our next projects. We're gonna grind that out, clean it up, seal it, and repair whatever we got to do there and eliminate that rust. I've got some really good rust eliminator. And of course, right down here, we got the regular rust onto the battery box. That fender liner's kind of rusted out, but most of the rest of the fender liner's just surface. The rest of the way around the truck's all surface except for one spot. We get one spot right over here by the exhaust pipe. Right here. Let's see. Right there. That's flaky rust right there. It's not all the way through yet, but it's almost all the way through. So we're going to probably cut that out and replace that piece of metal so that it doesn't happen again. And then this door doesn't open right now because I got it locked. Because there's a crack around the upper hinge. So we got to take that door off and clean that all up and repair that also. And then we got to scuff the whole thing down and decide what we're going to do about bodywork and paint. But it's a good, clean truck. Like I said before, it's only got about 50,000 miles on it. And it runs beautiful for something that it literally sat in storage since 2007, give or take. That's what we got so far. I'll send you some more videos when we get ready to start again, and maybe we'll get a cold start on the next one. Talk to y'all later.